This weekend I had a very touching textile art experience. I got to see the UK AIDS Memorial Quilt. The AIDS quilt has long been one of my favorite textile art pieces. I think it is just like the perfect example of craft as a politic and a method of community care. It's beautiful. It's considered one of the biggest, like largest public art projects that have ever been made. For the first time in 30 years, the UK quilt was being shown at the Tate Modern. It was only there for a few days, and for a few of them I was still on vacation. So literally the morning after Grace and I got back to London, we went over because we were like, we have to see this while it's here. It hasn't been out in 30 years. I'm so glad we made it. It was absolutely gorgeous. It's a communal quilt project that took place in the 80s. It was originally conceived in the US. The idea was that people would create memorial quilt blocks for their loved ones that have died from AIDS. They're sent from all over the country and even all over the world. So then some offshoot quilts started to happen, like the UK specific quilts, where they started collecting squares specifically from the UK. What I find the most moving about the quilt is that each of the quilt blocks is the size of a grave. I believe it's 3 feet by 6 feet. So each of them are kind of like a rectangle shape, and it's meant to really starkly show the absence of a body. So people would make these grave-sized quilt pieces. They would embroider their loved ones' names on it. Some of them had personal objects from the person stitched into it, so like clothing or jewelry, memorabilia, pictures of things that were important to them. They were sent in to be stitched all together in these massive quilts. The US AIDS quilt was originally unveiled on the National Mall, so in the Capitol. They covered the entire green with it. It was an act of protest because the government was doing nothing to support the communities that were dealing with AIDS, not acknowledging the rising death toll of preventable deaths. I just think it's such a moving, beautiful testament to both honoring and remembering people, making sure that their names live on, and also an act of protest. Take up physical space and tell governments you're not going to be able to get rid of these communities so easily. Hearing the stories of the way that people have come to this project as well. Sometimes people who had a lot of experience with quilting made very elaborate blocks, and it was a way for family members to really pour love and time into something and to mourn their loved ones. For some people, they had no experience with fiber art. They learned specifically so that they could make this and be a part of the memorial. And I think it's such a testament to the way craft brings people together, and also that it's made out of necessity. There's a big difference between some of the blocks that we saw. Some of them, like I said, are very elaborate, obviously come from homes where quilting was a part of their life. They have lots of very intricate materials, and then there are other ones where literally it's just like a piece of fabric and things have been written on it in Sharpie. Look like they might have been made out of old towels. Really just a beautiful example of using what you have around you to create something beautiful. You don't need fancy material to show the love and care that people were trying to put into this for their loved ones. I think what really strikes me and gets me like upset and is so devastating when thinking about this project is how recent this was. There were people who were there who were not even that old, who were asking the people who were working there to help them find specific quilt blocks for people that they remember. And you can see on the quilts too how many different people were mourning. There were some that were made by families that were signed by mothers and sisters and fathers, and there were some that were made by friends and lovers, and there was one that was so heartbreaking to see where the entire quilt block had been covered up, and you could tell that there was a made quilt underneath it, but there's a sign on it that says something to the effect of like their family doesn't want this to be shown, and it's gonna remain covered until they want to, and here we are like 30 years later, and they still apparently have a family that doesn't want to be associated with AIDS and with the queer community and with something that intimately affected a member of their family. That was really heartbreaking to see, but also inspiring to see, you know, how many different relationships and members of the queer community come together to become chosen family and to celebrate and to mourn people, even when traditional families aren't willing to do that. While we were walking around seeing all the different quilt pieces, I was eavesdropping a bit because there were some volunteers who are there to like kind of be stewards of the quilt, and I was overhearing them talk to someone. Volunteers said that there were, I think they said like 3,000 to 4,000 people who came to see it on the first day. And they said this is the first time that's been shown publicly in 30 years, and that actually the whole of the quilt was not there because during the time since it's been shown, for a while it was being just like stored in someone's garage. It survived a fire, so there were certain blocks that had to be taken out because they were damaged. It sounded like there was some like water damage at some point too, and it was really making me think about craft and care and how odd it is to see such an impactful, important project in a world famous museum like the Tate Modern, where the fine art that is hung on the walls is taken care of and held in certain conditions in order to have it last. The fact that this community project that represents, I think they said there were over 330 names on the quilt. It's just like in someone's garage, like why is no one taking care of it? On the way back, it prompted some interesting conversation with Grace and I too, thinking about the Tate Modern wants to show it for 3 days, but do they not want to acquire it into their collection? Is there someone, you know, who works with the quilt who has decided like we're not gonna let this become acquired by a fine art museum that is, you know, funded by certain corporations? Like I would understand that as well. It's a constant conversation, I guess, craft, fine art, how we value these things, queer community, and to what extent we should accept support from large organizations like the Tate, who have lots of resources to support the work that we're doing, who also just at the end of the day don't have the same like care and good intentions to like honoring the community that we can do if we do it ourselves. I don't have an answer for that, but that was an interesting part as well. The video that was being shown as well, we watched this 45-minute documentary that was about the last time that the quilt was shown was in Hyde Park in the 90s, so 30 years ago, and that was the last time people were able to come see it in person. I meet a lot of people who had recently made quilt blocks. They walk around and explain why they did the quilt the way that they did to honor the person that they were honoring. They talk and tell stories about the people who they were sharing on the quilt. Some sad moments, but there's also just some really joyful moments watching people get together and honor their loved ones in this way. That was a very moving experience for me. I'm really glad we got to see that. It makes me want to look more into ways to like volunteer to support that work. I would love if it wasn't another 30 years before people got to see it again. Friday afternoon. We have a very exciting weekend ahead, and it starts with signing on a new flat. I live with my partner Grace in this like studio loft, which has been really lovely, but we're looking to upsize a bit. We can't really like both work from home together. I'm looking to bring my studio home instead of having to go somewhere else to do it. And we wanted to move to a new area of the city because we've been in London for about 3 years now. So in that time, we've really gotten a good idea of like where we're hanging out the most often. And honestly, we don't live very close to that area. So we hit the rental market pretty hard. And within the first week of like really doing it seriously, have put a holding deposit down on a place that we really like. It's a 2-bedroom, super great area, dishwasher, big fridge, like lots of things that we're very excited for. And yeah, today, Friday, 5 p.m., we're going to like officially sign on it. Then we're headed to the Victoria and Albert Museum because my friend Elena is leading a craft workshop there. Super exciting. They do these events where it's called like a V&A Late or like the Tate Modern, which is a modern art museum, does it as well. A lot of like different cultural spaces across London will do these things where like once a month they'll stay open later. I think today the V&A is open until like 10. You can go around and see the collection, but they also bring in a lot of like outside workshops and music, just like pop-up events or talks or something like that. There's always a cool program of things and they're all on a theme. Always free too, so it's a great way for like young people to get into the museums and go see what's there. And I'm super proud of and excited for Elena that she's doing an event, so we're gonna go see her lead a craft forward workshop there and check out the rest of the event. Feeling very springy and cute. Let me show you my outfit. I love this dress. Whenever I put it on, I just feel like this is summer. Obviously, I love the color. It's from Shopnia. It has this big back cutout with like different bows on it as well. But my hook is on as usual. I wanted to like dress it down a bit. Just feeling very lucky. I'm going to pick up my girlfriend from her job and sign on a flat that we're really excited about and then go visit a friend doing awesome work at a really cool museum. So should be a great start to the weekend. Middle of the heat wave here in London, I very bravely turned off my fan and am not sitting directly in front of it in order to make this clip, so we've got like 90 seconds. Anyway, good excuse to bring out my little handmade tube top, I guess. I upcycled this with some fabric scraps last summer, and life goes on. So here are some current projects that I'm currently getting in the works. I'm starting the next issue of my magazine Material Girls, which will come out in August. First step in that is always to like reach out to anyone who I want to be part of it, so I reach out to the person who I want to interview to be like the Meet the Material Girl feature, because that often takes, you know, a few weeks to kind of coordinate and get answers and then lay it all out. And then I work on patterns because that's also the most like time consuming part. So I have to obviously get materials, make the patterns, but then also take pictures and lay them out and edit tutorials, all that stuff. Pattern concept this time around is just rosettes. I've been loving rosettes all year and I feel like they've become somewhat of a Material Girl signature. Like they're more and more the thing that people talk to me about liking, wanting stickers of, brands wanting them incorporated into workshops, and I love it. I'm happy to run with it. The like workshop version of rosettes that I've done at a few workshops now have been kind of gluing ribbon onto badges, and that's super fun. The most recent one that I did, people also made their own badges, so it was like a custom badge that you got to write or make whatever like illustration you wanted on it, and then obviously adding all the like ribbons and stuff around it. I was thinking we need some patterns so that like every Material Girl, whatever your medium, can have their own rosette. So I'm gonna do a knit version, crochet version, sewing version. They're all gonna be very simple. I mean, I like all the Material Girls patterns to be quite simple. The idea is that you can make it in an afternoon, that you can be at kind of any skill level and come out with something cute, and I think that will be definitely the case with these because rosettes really are just kind of like a pile of texture. Like there's no right or wrong way to do it. So I've been sourcing some inspiration. I think I said in my recent like summer to make projects video, I want to just do more of like making textured things and pinning them onto stuff, and that's kind of the vibe here. So I'm going to make a pattern where you can kind of just crochet a long wavy piece, pile it on top of each other, add some strings. Same thing with knitting. Sewing I think will be especially fun because I'm thinking I could show this in a few different ways. So you could sew somewhat of like a shaped flower that's layered, or I'm thinking you could also just like serge the edges of a long strip of fabric and kind of bind it around itself, and even just kind of hackily like sew it together on the back. These do not need to be professional projects. I feel like that's the fun thing. Like most Material Girls patterns probably read more like tutorials than like totally written out patterns where it's like full on instructions for multiple different sizes and things like that. So I've been thinking about fun ways to kind of lay that out, what the like overall theme of the issue is going to be. And I've never done one where all of the patterns are of kind of the same thing or the same vibe. So that makes me think like, are there fun ways to lay that out graphically as well? All of those I'm just going to do with scraps. I mean, that's something I also like to do with Material Girls patterns. I don't want people to feel like they have to go out and like buy a ton of materials. The idea is that you should have your own scraps around to just kind of throw something cute and scrappy together. I feel like that's more sustainable and also just more accessible because you don't need suddenly like 6 balls of matching yarn in order to make a project. You can just like have fun with the stuff that you have. So I'm excited to get to the studio and kind of rifle through what I have and figure out some fun color combos for that. I recently did a little bit of a pattern haul, which is not something I've done for a while. Usually I'm like a self-draft girl, but lately I've been thinking like I really want to get back into using patterns both to like support other cool designers who are making cool designs. Sometimes also because I'm like a designer and I design knitting, crochet, sewing. Whenever I look at something I'm like, oh, I could figure out how to make that. And it's like, oh, you don't have to. Like you could maybe enjoy it more if you just like got the instructions and it was kind of a ready-made thing that you could guide yourself through. I did a little haul from Rose Fane, super cute Danish creator. I saw she came out with this disco belt, which is like the cutest thing I've ever seen, like a concept I would never think of. And I still don't quite know how I would style this, but I just feel like this is so fun and something I have to have in my closet. So I went to her site and I was like, obviously I'm getting this immediately, and I found a few other things as well. Flora shirt, I have not really done much crochet clothing, but I think stuff like this is so fun to make. Last summer I made a tank that's kind of like this. It's actually designed by Rose Fane. She did it with Wool Gang. Sent me the kit to try and I was like, okay, I've never really made something like this before. I don't know what I'll think of it, but it was actually so fun to follow the pattern and to like watch the shapes being built up. So it made me want to try this one in like kind of a different version as well. I think it'd be super cute as a bathing suit cover up. And as I'm saying this, I'm remembering that I just put out a meme on Material Girls that was like of this guy sweating, because I feel like it's such a thing to be like, if you make stuff in cotton yarn, it's perfect for summer, or like if I make something with a bunch of holes and like flowers on it, like it's a perfect cover up. And I'm sitting here sweating in my apartment. See about that. Like we'll see if this actually gets any use in summer, but either way I do think it would be fun to make. And then just a few home things. I don't really have plans for these, but I just thought while I'm on the site, let me get a few cute ones. These little swans, I don't know where I would hang that, but that's so cute. And then these wall decor pieces, which were on my like summer to make projects things that I wanted to make. I do want to make these and perhaps frame them. I think they are super cute and it checks off my doily to do, which has been on my to make list. One of our friends is from Manchester, so we were up there briefly this weekend and went to some great bookstores. The first one was actually a magazine store, which is like my favorite thing, like a bunch of self-published magazines and zines all in one place, amazing. And I found this, Calling All Horse Girls. What a cute concept. So it's all like girly pop equestrian stuff, and they have a bunch of cool interviews with just like really successful and cool equestrians, and it's all very like stylized and fashion-y as well. And what really caught my eye is one of the first pages that I opened up to was... Are you kidding me? With all the prize ribbons, and it says sporty. I love a good rosette ribbon, as you know. Some more there, that was really calling my name. They also did some styling in a really cool way in the center here. Photo shoot called 5th Place, which is first of all like such a cool concept. This is the life I see for myself. This is such good style inspiration. This page specifically, check this out. This is like what I want to be giving. It's girly, but it's also a bit practical. It is notably like equestrian and western, obviously, but it's also playful. Like, why are you wearing 5 ribbons? It looks so good. It was already sold, right? And then the best part, I flipped to the back and there's a pop-out rosette ribbon. Isn't that adorable? And they have some interactive memorize your courses, like how you jump through different things on a horse course. I'm not new to this, I'm true to this. I was a horse girl growing up, nothing like the girls who are in here. I just like going to horse camp. But this just feels so nostalgic, but also like so relevant to the style that I want to be doing, and it's just been so cool to like read about what cool things horse girls are doing. Also, they use a lot of like technical language, and like I don't know a ton about like the, you know, technical aspects of the sport of horse racing, but learning a lot, and everyone is very stylish and cool. So that is like, this has been so fun and mostly what I've been reading. So stick around if you're interested to see more about what I'm making, doing, reading, hang out in London. Back next week, but until then, have a great day.